Okay. I believe I am live. Awesome. All right, guys. Cheers. This is probably going to be a little bit of a long video. And I wrote 17 pages in less than a day on the subject matter that we're going over today. So I will probably have to keep glancing over and reading the concepts and everything here because it's stuff I've been thinking about since the weekend. So basically, today we're going to be talking about the movie Moonfall. We're going to be talking about fringe theories, fringe science theories, fringe conspiracy theories. We're going to be talking about nanotechnology, archons, demiurge, you name it, all this stuff about the moon and spiritual growth, and it's going to be fun, and I'm going to geek out, and you're going to see a whole different side, right? Okay, guys, so you're going to learn really fast why you'd love going to the movies with me, or you tell me to shut up, because it's not because I talk through the movies. It's because my brain spirals when I watch movies, especially sci-fi. I kind of go all over the place. And that's what I'm going to do here with you. And I hope we all have a good time. And I hope that there are people that join us actually for this live today. This is going to be really fun, especially now as our moon is headed into the new moon phase. Tomorrow, the moon is going to be in Pisces in a new moon phase. So this is really a time to ponder, to get imaginative, to really tap into mystical stuff and fill out the collective consciousness and the unconscious for that matter. So I've been wanting to do this for a long time, actually. I've thought about doing movie reviews about some of my fave sci-fi movies in a way that brings in these theories, spirituality, and just my spin on them for a really long time, probably even before Starbridge. But so anyways, I'm just really looking forward to hearing your input too. If you like the review, if you like this video, if you're watching it, you like the discussion, where I take it, then let me know in the comments, because I think that this is going to be a really fun way to connect with you guys outside of some other topics, but it still is all like Starbridge stuff. So I watched Moonfall this last weekend, as I said. It was really fun for a couple of reasons. For one, it was the first date my husband and I had in 6 years, kid-free, going to a movie, and I was so excited about that. Kind of felt like a kid all over again. But I think I had more fun than anyone else in the movie theater. I am a nerd, and I love sci-fi, and the movie was silly and had some really dazzling levels of stupid, but I was grinning ear to ear watching it. The movie is for entertainment. It's not a masterpiece. It's not a classic. It's for fun and entertainment, and it delivered. It's not everything I expected from Emmerich. Emmerich was the director. He's made some really great movies like Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, and Stargate. If you haven't seen those, definitely watch them. Moonfall has had a lot of bad reviews. It's sci-fi. If you can't suspend your logic and have some fun, then what's the point of watching sci-fi? There are also some scenes that were really kind of rushed or underthought. Like, you're seriously going, what the fuck? Why did you just do that? You could have done this, right? It's kind of like in horror movies when you're like, why do they always run up the stairs? They don't. The visuals were decent, though. Some of it kind of felt like a video game when it came to destruction scenes, but I think probably a lot of the time was spent developing the alien creature that's in it. The opening was great. The ending felt like the concept Emmerich really wanted to get into, or actually, I think he kind of balled in together a lot of concepts, as you'll see. It was all shoved in at the end really quickly, and I would have loved to see that get spread out more across the movie and played with. And I think there's so many routes that could have been taken, but pretty much everything went out the window in the movie. So it's a geeky concepts, it's a conspiracy theories, especially at the end, that I really want to talk about, and it just really got the wheels turning thinking about the moon. And I'm really going to stretch your mind today. I'm really going to ask you to stretch your mind with me as we discuss some of these things. So a couple of concepts in the movie that I was excited about was spaceship moon theory, hollow moon theory, archons, AI, nanotechnology, and the Dyson sphere white dwarf star megastructure. But before we even start discussing theories from the movie, I want to start with some moon talk. Like, how old is the moon? Has it always been the Earth's moon? Is it a natural occurrence, or is it a spaceship? And why are the craters so shallow? So let's start with some facts about the moon, and then you'll see how they kind of play in as we go through some of these theories. The moon is exactly 1/400th the size of the sun. It's also 1/4 the size of the Earth. And it's exactly 1/400th the distance between the Earth and the sun. This is why when we get solar eclipses, the moon looks like it's the same size as the sun, but it's not. It's just a very precise placement. Kind of peculiar, actually, too. Moving on, currently, the moon is receding. So with each orbit, it's getting further away from us. And if you didn't know that, it's kind of interesting and another peculiar anomaly about the orbit of the moon. Each year, each orbit that it has, it's going about 4 centimeters to like 1.5 inches, or I guess it would be 1.5 inches to 4 centimeters if you're really going inches to centimeters per year in distance. That gets into fission theory, which is about how the moon is a chunk of something, which most would say the moon is a chunk of the Earth. But let's save fission theory for just a bit later. With that said, we're going to go into more information about the moon. We've got about 16 things here I'm going to list for you, and you're going to realize just how important our moon really is to our Earth, so we think. It takes the moon 27 days to orbit around the Earth. It stabilizes the Earth on its axis, so this means the poles aren't shifting on us, although there has been some discussion about the poles starting to move. The moon's receding. It controls the tides of the oceans. It controls the seasons. It keeps all the polar ice caps from melting. It slows down our time. This is going to be important to remember this little nugget. The days would be faster without the moon. Its density. This is another one. Its density is a little less than 1/3 of the density of the Earth. In other words, the Earth is 81 times heavier than the moon. The craters are called seas. It's in a tidal lock with the Earth, meaning we only ever see one side of the moon, the face, which leaves us the dark side or the far side of the moon that we never see. So the tidal lock is, here's the sun and the moon, and they're rotating and they're going, spiraling around with the sun, and we only ever see the face of the moon. It never shows us the other side. No one has been to the moon since 1972. The moon has quakes. We've only discovered less than 1% of the moon's surface. So to picture that, think about the Mall of America. That's it. That's about the size of the moon that we've discovered. Lunar rocks don't match up to the age of the Earth. So this is really interesting too, another anomaly. There's a 500 million year discrepancy at least between the age of the Earth and the age of the moon, according to the lunar rocks that we've studied. This goes against collision theory, and again, we're going to cover some different theories in a bit, but also way back, NASA used to say, of course they don't now, but they used to say that the moon is older than our Earth. The moon rings. So we're going to cover that in just a bit. It's a perfect sphere, and there are structures on the moon. Where I'd like to start getting into some thought process is with the craters. They're very shallow. There's no depth. They're thin. So there's no ejector. There's nothing around the crater's edge. The bottom of the craters are flat, and some of them are convex. So there's even like kind of a rounding that takes place. Something is stopping meteors, comets, and asteroids from penetrating further, meaning something that hits the moon and spans hundreds of miles in diameter. Guys, this is huge, okay? These craters, some of them are even upwards of like 1,500 miles in diameter. Okay, that's huge. But they have very little depth. This is considered an anomaly on the moon. So how could something so massive hit the moon but not go very deep? In other words, let's get those wheels spinning. What is stopping the blow? Meteors, comets, and asteroids are hitting something. What are they hitting? Well, it's tough. It's something like metal, like armor. The material can take a massive impact and not even be fazed by it. So Neil Armstrong, when he planted the American flag on the moon, he had to drill into something. He went through about 1 inch of dust, and then he hit something. And it took every bit of his power, every bit of his drill, to get through whatever rock it was to be able to plant the American flag. Okay, and so if you're one of those that debates whether or not we've been to the moon or if Apollo 11 was a hoax, let's not take it there right now. That's a discussion for another time that I'm totally open to having to. Trust me, though, there's going to be enough theories that I'm going to be presenting here in this discussion. So think about it, though. There's some serious technology, some kind of advanced technology that's protecting whatever is below the surface of the moon. All right. If you go to the website, usgs.gov, it's a United States website. You can download the images that show subsurface structures. Radar imagery was used, and it pierces the surface. So these images actually show that there is some kind of structure below the moon's surface. The shape of the moon is a perfect sphere. Okay, so why is this a big deal? Why is it considered an anomaly? Because when we look at other moons, they actually aren't perfect spheres. Other moons, as one researcher said, they look like Idaho potatoes. So where's my Idaho friends at? You guys do a little like here, because other moons, they look like Idaho potatoes. They also have density. So going back to the fact that our moon has really little density and it's a perfect sphere. So if you ask me, a sphere would be a hell of a lot better design for a spacecraft to travel than a cube or some misshapen object like a potato. Which goes back to, is it artificially created? When we look at the gravitational field of the Earth, it isn't that strong, especially compared to planets like Jupiter and Saturn. They have a gravitational field that can pull objects into their orbit and even lock those things into place, into their orbit. Our little Earth, though, it's like a marble compared to those planets. So for it to be able to put the moon in a tidal lock is really peculiar. It's another anomaly because the size of the moon compared to the Earth, again, is a quarter the size of the Earth. It's far too large by conventional physics standards to pull the moon into orbit and then have it in a tidal lock too. I think these lights are making me look a little washed out. I don't know, but I'm going to mess with them right now. Okay, so this tidal lock, it makes it so we can never see the dark or the far side of the moon. Our imagery doesn't even get to that side of the moon, or at least we're told that it never gets to that side of the moon. We never get to see it. Think about it. What could be going on over on that side of the moon? So let me just plant some ideas in case you aren't sure where to start thinking. Think things like bases, both human bases and extraterrestrial. Think ships that can come and go and no one would ever be the wiser because we can't see it. Think entrances into the moon. What could be going on inside of the moon? I'm not going to lead you down too many rabbit holes right now, but just get the idea. Like, what are these bases that we don't know about? And there is a lot of discussion, and there are a lot of people who've come out of the military industry complex that have stated that, yes, there are bases on the moon. I'm going to get back to density in just a bit, but let's talk a little bit further about these bases. It's said that there have been intergalactic wars on our moon, and now it's like a headquarters for many races, so advanced ET races and even our human race. It's a place for meetings, and that may seem far-fetched right now for a lot of you. I get it. So let's just talk a little bit more about something we can all understand for sure, because thinking about alien bases and human bases on the moon is kind of a big thing to tackle. But if we go into something that we can understand, let's talk about the Benjamins. It's all about the bennies with the next theory. It's been discovered that the moon has helium-3. Helium-3 can be refined from moon rocks. Think the gold rush of the mid-1800s. There's a race to get to the moon right now. No one's been there since 1972, and now all countries want to get to the moon. Elon wants to mine asteroids. Mining's a big deal on this planet. It's something we've been doing here for a long time, and it's made some people incredibly wealthy. So think mining the moon for helium-3. Why helium-3? Well, if you don't know what that is, it's a very clean source of energy. It's a very powerful, incredibly powerful source of energy, and it's clean. Think no radiation, okay? Think about that. Just a small bit of helium-3 could last years as an energy source and make tons of money. It's said that China is well on its way to starting to mine the moon. Let me tell you this, whoever gets to this resource first is going to rule the world. And if it's China, you're probably going to want to invest in some Rosetta Stone and start learning to speak Mandarin soon. With that said, before I actually go back to density again, what happened back in 72? Why did we stop going to the moon? One researcher put it this way, and I can't remember his name right now. It's been a little bit, but he sure had me laughing my ass off the way he put this. He said, look, we left like 400,000 pounds of trash. We left moon landers up there and 96 bags of feces. If you lived inside the moon and somebody left a bunch of crap on the roof of your house, how would you feel? You'd be disturbed that some dumb race came to your home looking for rocks and left a bunch of crap all over. You'd be like, take your rocks and leave, never come back. When he said that, I just busted up because seriously, for real, it's true. If we can suspend our known reality for now, and if other beings live in the moon, they for sure would be more advanced and look at us like dumb, filthy animals. Here, take a fucking rock and leave. Get off our property and never come back. So we didn't. Okay, let's go back to density for a moment. Natural organic bodies have density. Look at your body. It has density. There aren't any large, open, cavern-type places in the body. There's a lot compacted into your body. You aren't hollow. Same for other natural beings, animals, and even our Earth. Although there's hollow Earth theories, but again, we're just going to focus on the moon for right now. The point is, the moon rings. It rings like a bell, and it has little density to it. Here's how we know this. Seismometers were plopped down from lunar landers. In fact, the very first time we went to the moon, one of the first things we wanted to do was bring a seismometer to look at vibrations. But we have to ask why. Why was that one of the first things we wanted to do? I'm going to let you ponder that for a minute. Okay, so these seismometers were dropped down. When one of the seismometers hit the moon, it vibrated. It rang like a bell. So they did it again. They left a seismometer 40 miles away, did some other tests, and sure enough, the moon had its longest time frame for vibrating and ringing. It rang for 3 days. Can't see that. 3 days. 3 days. 3 days. It rang like a bell. Scientists estimate that the vibrations went down about 25 miles into the moon. Say this again, but like this. The wall, the outside wall of the moon, is estimated to be about 25 miles deep. And then it's estimated that there is a 2,000-mile void inside the moon, at least. And that's why it resonates. If there was a mass, the mass would cancel out the vibrations. And this is why it's really compelling to look at this anomaly, to consider the moon being hollow. Need a drink. There's nobody on yet. I really want you guys to be on because I would love to be chatting with you too. Okay. There was a NASA scientist that once said that the moon is inside out and what's on the outside should be inside. What the hell does that even mean? Really? So somehow the stuff that was in the moon got put on the surface of the moon. I don't know. It's strange. There's a lot of astronomers that have said for many, many decades now that our moon is likely a satellite that was put into orbit and functions as some kind of base or data collecting center for Earth. As in, Earth is being watched from the moon. Astronomers were saying this back in the early 60s. NASA scientist, a top scientist from 1962, his name's Dr. Gordon MacDonald, he said that data shows the interior of the moon is less dense and that the exterior of the moon, or that the data shows that the interior of the moon is less dense than the exterior, meaning suggesting that the moon is hollow. So other scientists around the world have come to this conclusion as well. So what the fuck is actually going on with our moon? Is it hollow? Is it a satellite? Is it a base? Has it been dug out? Is it an artificial structure, a megastructure? Well, it only becomes more of a rabbit hole, so hang in there with me, guys. In 1970, Russian scientists hypothesized that the moon is indeed hollow. Enter the moon as a spacecraft theory. They thought it's likely a spaceship based on the condensing anomalies of craters and how shallow they are, how they have convex and flat bottoms. Of course, I'm trying to sum this up as briefly as I can, but that's one of the main reasons for the theory. They believe that in an advanced ET race, or possibly even advanced humans at some point in the past, hello Atlantis, I mean, there could have been advanced human civilizations on Earth at some point. I'm not going to take this into that discussion there, but yeah, it's a possibility. So let's get into some other theory. There are a few theories scientists have considered about the moon and how it came to be according to our science. There's three of them, actually. There's collision theory. A planet like Mars crashed into Earth, breaking off a chunk, which then reformed into our moon. However, the theory doesn't work. It's pretty much nonsense. The Earth and the moon have identical isotopes. So in the soil, they have the same elements. The moon and the Earth have matching isotopes. If there was some kind of crash and there was another planet involved, there would be isotopes showing that something else was in the elements. So we would see different isotopes. Two is capture theory. So Earth captured the moon. Okay. And we're talking about suspending our imagination here. The moon's just blasting by. And with odds like a gazillion to 1. And the Earth and moon, the Earth captures the moon, puts it into a tidal lock with all positions. The moon would have hit Earth. Again, we're just not big enough to capture something the size of the moon. So that leads us to theory 3, which is condensation fission theory. And this is one that more scientists will gravitate towards, but you'll see it still doesn't work. The Earth and the moon condensed at the same time from the same material in the solar system, but this also can't be true based on a couple of things. A, it's not dense like the Earth. B, the moon appears to be about 500 million years older than the Earth. And C, at some point, this is where it gets interesting, and keep this nugget for later, at some point, the moon was blasted with some serious heat, like it was near a massive explosion or something. It's been baked at about 4,000 degrees on the surface. So what caused that, we don't know, but the Earth doesn't show signs of it. However, guess what? Mars does have signs of charring on one side. So again, save that nugget for later. The conclusion is, there is none. No one knows what the fuck is going on with our moon, how it got into orbit, where it came from, and if it's a natural occurrence, or this organic body, or an artificial body. I mean, here we are spending money to go to Mars. And that's the other thing. There's this big race to go to space right now. But why aren't we exploring the moon more? It is getting to be more talked about going to the moon, but the big talk is all about going to Mars and colonizing Mars. I don't know about you guys, but I have a lot of questions and I'm not a scientist. I mean, why did we stop going to the moon back in 72? We got a few rocks and now we're good? I mean, I look up at the moon from my backyard and I'm wondering all the time about the moon and everything else up there. I think that there are people that know what's up. And like most things, there's a lot of cover-up and a lot of lies. Speaking of which, let's get to chatting about the structures on the moon. In November of 1966, NASA released images of 6 tall towers on the moon. They're called the Blair Cuspids, and they're named after the scientists that discovered them. We're talking tall. These towers are taller than any structure on Earth. The way they're designed, geometrically, how they're laid out, how they're placed on the moon, is very similar. It's just like the pyramids in Cairo. So there's an intelligent design behind these towers, and they're located in the Sea of Tranquility. So another interesting fact about these towers is that scientists believe that they're not natural, meaning that they're not made from the same materials that you could get from the moon. So the material used to make the towers are not natural to the moon. They're not from the moon. I'm certain that the Apollo 11 moon landing at the Sea of Tranquility, where those towers are located, that happened 3 years after this discovery, had absolutely nothing to do with the towers. So let's go back a little bit further. In 1953, a science editor for the New York Tribune named John O'Neill, he discovered that there was a 12-mile-long bridge in an area of the moon known as Mare Crisium. Many astronomers started reporting that they saw it too. I mean, this guy took some ridicule for a while. People were like, yeah, right, a bridge on the moon, what have you been smoking, dude? But then astronomers started coming forward and being like, yeah, there is a bridge. There is a huge bridge on the moon. However, over time, the bridge disappeared. It slowly just transformed into the surface of the moon. There's no trace of it even left to see anymore. So in the 1960s, NASA got really inspired to compile a list of strange sightings that have been reported on the moon throughout all of history. So that takes some digging for sure. And what they came up with was called a chronological catalog of lunar events. So anything that they could find since the telescope was invented. And there's hundreds of records of strange things and structures on the moon, many of which report seeing lights and objects moving above the surface of the moon, as well as mist and clouds moving around on the moon. But if the moon doesn't have any atmosphere, where are the clouds and the mist coming from? So going back now to the spaceship theory, there's a ufologist. He's a researcher. He's really into UFOs, right? His name is John Blair. He said that the moon was built 38 million years ago on Jupiter. He says the moon has only been with our Earth for about 15,000 years, which would make it right about after the Ice Age. He also states things like there's 40 other planets in our solar system, and that each of those planets, including their moons, have civilizations on them. He states that the moon is a spacecraft. It does not have a propulsion system, so it has to be towed around. The only reason why I mention this is going to lead into some other things. So keep that in mind, that it's a spacecraft with no propulsion, so it has to be towed. So here comes the towing truck to pull the moon, tour around the solar system. I mean, can you only imagine? So anyways, I don't always resonate with some of John Lear's interviews that I've seen, but it's worth mentioning because we're going to talk about pre-lunar societies. So say that again. Pre-lunar societies, a time before the moon. People on the planet before there was a moon. There's so many records of ancient civilizations that have been recorded one way or another about a time before there was a moon in our sky, in the Earth's orbit. There's even stories of a time when there was no moon, and then came 2 moons. So going back to what John said, if our moon is a spacecraft, if it's a megastructure of some kind, or even a satellite, and it doesn't have propulsion system, then it would have to be towed here. Something else would have to bring it here, and boom, you got 2 moons. To ancient cultures, this could have very easily appeared like there were 2 moons in the sky. It's kind of interesting. It's a lot to wrap our minds around, but throwing in the pot of what the fuck theories and questions about the moon. So cosmologists say there absolutely was a time before the moon, and that the moon was put into the Earth's orbit. Native Americans sang songs about the sky before there was a moon, and songs about when the moon came into the sky. Many Native American tribes also describe the moon as being brought here by extraterrestrials. There are stories from ancient Amazon tribes, tribes in Colombia, Zulu tribes in Africa, and all over the world that tell of a time before there was a moon in our sky. The Zulu tribe in Africa even states that the moon is hollow, and they refer to it as an egg. For a second, I'm going to run with this, because why the hell not? The first thought entered my mind, and my husband's mind, when we were listening to this. We had just watched something. We were watching something on the moon, and there was an interview with the Zulu tribe, and they were talking about how they call the moon an egg. And prior to that, we had seen something about this guy who was talking how the moon is crystalline and that there's like a diamond crystalline structure across the whole surface of the moon, making it really shiny. And that got my attention because I love crystals. So anyways, one of the things he said was, how come we don't ever see any color photos of the moon? They're always black and white. And photos are edited to brighten certain areas. They're flipped upside down to mess with the horizon. And anyhow, you know, we have crystal beds here on Earth. Our DNA is actually crystalline in nature. So why wouldn't the moon be hollow like a thunder egg? Perhaps that wall that's 25 miles deep is actually crystals, and then it goes into a void that's then hollow, just like a thunder egg. Okay, so I know there's a lot of ways we can run with ideas. You have to admit it's fun, though, letting the imagination go. Again, it's perfect time, too, because the moon is going into Pisces, and we're in the Pisces season. I mean, we'll never really know what's going on with this world, with the moon, with the universe, likely, especially not from this perception. I mean, there's work to be done. We have to keep working on feeling out and discovering the truth while raising our vibes so we can connect more and more to source, to the divine, and really understand this stuff. But I digress. Let's just go back to the theories for now. Here's a thought. If there were these pre-lunar civilizations, how'd they live on Earth? I mean, if the moon is doing so much to stabilize the Earth, to slow us down, control seasons and the tides, how then did these other cultures live? Yet there are so many cultures that describe a time of living before there was a moon. I'm going to adjust this light a little bit because it's like seriously ghosting me out. It's a little better. Okay. Sorry guys, my nose keeps itching. Okay. Okay, I was saying all these cultures that lived before there was a time of the moon, and then how did they survive if our moon is doing so much? Our ancestors didn't have internet. There wasn't contact with one another, yet story after story tell of a time before the moon. So Greek philosopher Aristotle referenced an age before the moon. There's a process, I always screw this up, the Procellines, and they were a culture of Greeks before the moon, and Procellene actually literally means a time before the moon. So many of these cultures describe that there was a huge disaster, a catastrophic event that happened to the Earth when the moon showed up. This is really interesting stuff. In ancient Greek culture, there was a god named Orpheus. He was said to know a lot of things about the moon. He said the moon had many mountains, cities, and houses in it, and all thought it to have solid ground like the earth, containing in it very large fields, champion grounds, and divine inhabitants. Some researchers even estimate that the moon came into orbit with the earth about 50,000 years ago. So maybe there's something to be said there. Maybe there are other civilizations living on the moon. Ancient Druids told stories about the moon. They passed down that all of life was stored on the moon, that all seeds of life were on it, in the boat of the moon, referring to DNA in this crescent-shaped moon. So here is this crescent moon, looks like a boat. They're saying all the seeds of life are up there in it. So there are other stories of the moon being able to see the earth too throughout ancient cultures. And now some researchers actually believe that the moon could be some kind of Noah's Ark. Like it's a huge database of DNA storage that could repopulate the earth. The Exploded Planet, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, my nose is itching so bad. The Exploded Planet is a book by Thomas Van Flandern, and he's a specialist in celestial mechanics in the U.S. Naval Observatory. He wrote a book, The Exploded Planet. It's explained that the moon might have been part of a planet that was blown up. Chunks of the planet became the asteroid belt, and that's how we got our Earth and our moon. There's also the theory of the intergalactic war, too. An ancient advanced race may have used what we know as our moon as a satellite or spacecraft for that civilization, maybe to escape. Okay, so there's the Enuma Elish, which is known as the 7 tablets of creation. And I'm barely even going to touch the surface of this right now, but it's worth mentioning. I hope to do some fun videos in the future, though, covering more about the Enuma Elish, because it's really interesting stuff. The ancient Sumerians believed that Earth was once a super Earth planet called Tiamet. And Tiamet was further from the sun than we are now. There was a violent disruption to their planet. It blew up. Did something natural occur? Was there a war? Don't know. Just the first thought that crossed my mind when I was introduced to this theory was that our Earth is a piece of Tiamet, that Mars and our moon were moons to Tiamet. So if Mars was a moon to the planet and our moon is a satellite and worked as some kind of spacecraft for their planet, that would make a little bit of sense. I mean, maybe it was a spacecraft for them to escape some war, or maybe they knew something was going to explode on their planet, so they used it to escape. And they had all the seeds of DNA to start life over again. This is an advanced civilization, and it's thought to be an advanced human being race civilization of our ancestors past. And they had to use it to live in and survive it until they could find another Earth. It would explain the charring on one side of Mars and the evidence of our moon being baked at one point to very extreme temperatures. And perhaps that chunk of Tiamet, Earth went over here, and this shit's burning up over here. Okay, so it didn't get touched by the heat because it was so fiercely blown off, whatever event took place. So if our moon is a spacecraft or a satellite, and they toured around looking for a planet to start over on, it makes sense that it's hollow, and the ancient cultures that believed it had all the seeds of life in it and are showing up at a later time would make sense. So again, though, this is something I'd really love to truly explain a little bit better in detail in a separate video. There's a lot to it. So a little bit of spoilers coming about Moonfall, right? You're probably like, when are you going to talk about Moonfall, Jess? Okay, in the movie Moonfall, towards the end, the astronauts discover an alien life force. It's nanotechnology, a type of AI. And it apparently got so smart and self-aware that it wiped out an ancient advanced race of humans. Hello, Tiamet. Blow that shit up. They had to escape. So they hopped in the moon, a megastructure for them to survive in. They had the ability to seed the Earth again. In the moon, there were two forces. So there's this evil AI, this nanotechnology creature, and it would kill anything electronic. But there was also this super consciousness that explained all that had happened to one of the astronauts trying to save the world from the moon falling. It explained what the creature was. So my first thought, when I'm sitting there in the movie and I'm kicking back, my first thought at seeing this AI creature was archons. Archons are another topic, but they were created by the demiurge. Again, another topic, but I'm going to just go with it for a minute here. Demiurge is said to be the god that took over this universe and has us all in this veil of forgetfulness and reincarnating over and over until we remember who we truly are. Again, this is really brief, and there's a lot more detail to it, but just kind of want to give you some basics here to run with. So, we're reincarnating over and over until we remember who we truly are. Archons are designed to take over the human body. The demiurge is essentially the devil in Christian terms, but that's not to say the demiurge is the devil either. There's more to it. Archons are a creature, a creation of the demiurge, and perhaps a malevolent ET life force created by the demiurge. The goal is to hive mind human beings, take over their bodies, and control and manipulate what the true God created. Well, AI, nanotechnology, and everything sprayed on our food, microchipping us. What the fuck? This is where we start getting into reptilians and other types of ETs. But long story short, to me, it was hitting so many concepts with this movie. Hollow Moon, Tiamet, AI taking over, megastructures, advanced lost human races in our ancestors' history, and this creature that really had an archontic feel to it, so therefore touching on the demiurge. I had some thoughts about it, about the demiurge and archons after watching this flick too. So we know that the moon is receding. Okay, it's getting further away year after year. Yes, it's a little bit, but it is getting further away every year, which means that time is speeding up, and we also know that time is speeding up little by little. We also know that our natural resonance state and that of the Earth is actually 5D, fifth density. That's a discussion. If you're not aware of what that means, that's a discussion for another time too that I will cover. But our natural resonance state and that of the Earth is actually 5D. However, we have this superimposed programming over everything right now, over our consciousness, over our planet. And it's designed by the demiurge and the archons. As we do the work to grow and ascend spiritually, as we raise our consciousness and frequency, are we lifting the veil? So ask yourself that. Like, are we dismantling the programming off of us and the planet? And I think you know the answer to this. I'm kind of telling demiurge, fuck off, dude. Like, we're raising our consciousness, but we're going to send you away with love. Okay? But yeah, we're not doing this matrix program shit anymore. The planet is moving back into a frequency of 5D. We're getting more cosmic rays shining down over us, and therefore encoding us with more information, because light equals information. And we can even see that with crystal beds of the Earth. Crystals are changing. And our DNA is changing, and our DNA is crystalline. It's helping us to wake up more and more, to remember who we are. Could it be, as we do this work, spiritual work, to raise our vibe, right? As we remember more and more about who we are, as we open our minds, as we function from our heart space, are we pushing back the entities that are in the moon, that are manipulating everything? There's always this talk about how we're going into 5D. But I think 5D has always been here. It's that we have to do the work to lift the veil, to raise our frequency, because we can only be what we perceive, and we can only perceive from the frequency that we're at. Anyways, if the moon is a megastructure for the archons and the demiurge, it could be very well that the Earth was once in a natural 5D state, but the archon thugs pulled up in their moon satellite and started taking over. We got trapped in some cycle with the demiurge. See, there's another theory that states that the moon is this bright light that people see when they die, or they have NDEs, near-death experiences. And it's said that the archons feed off of our energy, our states of fear and crisis, our frustrations and low-quality energy. And they just keep having us recycled over and over, coming back into this 3D matrix programming, this superimposed false reality. However, if the moon's a natural occurrence, an organic body that was taken over, but still has her consciousness, like in the movie, what does that mean for the moon? Is she set free when we are? Is this moon the satellite for the demiurge, and therefore is just going to blast off again once we reach a higher consciousness collectively? As our moon is going into the Pisces new moon tomorrow, it's this far out there stuff that comes with the energy. The takeaway is, let's do the work. Let's open our hearts. Let's be the light beings that we truly are, and claim our sovereignty from anything and everything that's working against our natural state. At this point, I really want to take off more into discussion about some of these forces and beings, but I realize I've dropped a lot here to be discussed, to be considered, to toy with. And I guess you can probably see why I geeked out over the movie. I'm an astrologer. I love conspiracy theories. I believe in ATs. I think AI is the end of mankind. I believe that the moon and the sun and the Earth and all the other planets have a higher consciousness. So I could see Emmerich, with the movie, he's cramming so much into an idea at the very end. I wish it could have been spread out more, dug into a bit more. There's so much potential to run with from the concepts that he was working with, but I think it got lost on a lot of people. So the movie got a lot of bad reviews. Meanwhile, my nerdy self was like, yes, disclosure. I even looked over my husband. I was like, woo, disclosure. I mean, movies like this always have something to them, even if it's just a little bit, just a touch. The thing is, everything is going on in plain sight. We're always told what's going on. We're always told what's coming. But we have to wake up and remember. We have to see through here. We have to remember who we are. We have to break out of the superimposed 3D matrix programming to really know what's going on. So this movie hit some chords for me. Got me thinking about our moon. How do we start asking questions? And we have to open our minds, tap into our hearts, let that divine wisdom just come through. What's really going on? What is our moon? Well, close your eyes. Take a moment. Close your eyes and ask your heart. Ask God, what is our moon? Maybe you'll hear something there. Maybe there's some wisdom that's in there for you to remember, to wake up to. Maybe you'll just go off in your imagination. That's okay. The point is, are you growing? Are you evolving? Are you ascending? Are you calling in higher frequencies and maintaining that? If you're growing from your heart's wisdom, if you're growing from curiosity, watching a sci-fi movie, using your imagination, then go for it. We all have growing to do. You might as well have fun while you're at it. For a quick moment, though, I want to bring up my new program called Yes, Claim Your Energy and Sovereignty. And it's perfect timing to release this because you could tell after this discussion that there is a lot going on out there. But we do actually have enough going on in our personal lives and in this world too. So it's essential to understand your energy, how it feels, why you feel the way you do, and what you can do to claim your energy and have more control over your frequency and over your own energetic field. The program goes over energy, but also sovereignty, what it is, why it's foundational to spiritual growth and accelerating your spiritual growth. The guide is created to support you with your growth, with your spiritual path, no matter what belief system you have. With the new moon in Pisces here, it's really great timing to be setting intentions, working on goals, releasing old energy, and doing spiritual work. We are in the season of Pisces, new moon in Pisces. There's some Pisces energy that's going to be hitting us for a while too. This is a time of huge support from the universe right now to do this kind of work. So much Piscean fish vibes for the next couple of months. The energy is all about spirituality, waking up to the unseen things going on. Where are we being submissive? Where are we being manipulated? Where is the wool getting pulled over our eyes? Where do we need to step up and evolve? It's about endings and beginnings. It's about the material world and the spiritual world. Learning to claim your energy and your sovereignty. It's all about calling your energy back to you and laying that strong foundation for spiritual growth. The declaration that you're given to work with covers a wide variety of issues to claim your sovereignty. It covers everything from the physical to the intergalactic, so it's huge. So I hope that you'll join me in welcoming in the frequency of freedom, truth, light, and love, and holding that, marinating in that frequency with your own being, which then not only assists you, but it assists the rest of the world, everything and everyone that comes into contact with your energy, with your energetic field. And I look forward to supporting you on this path. I'm really excited about it, you guys. It has been such an honor yet to connect again, and I hope this video was fun and informative. I have more plans to make videos like this about movies in the future. If you have one, if you think of a movie that you're like, hey, I want Jess to kind of break that down, request it. Let me know in the comments because I really want to hear from you guys more. I would love to see more interaction in this group. All right, I will see you all soon. Blessings.